Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of NASCAR Chase for the Cup 2005 on the channel as we are live at the Dover International Speedway for the running of the Stacker 200. NASCAR Busch Series race number 14 of 31 on the custom schedule season, heading into tonight's 200-lap, 200-miler around Monster the Miles track, I should say, the Monster Mile. Miles the Monster is, of course, the trophy that these drivers are going to be trying to chase here today, or is on the trophy that the drivers are going to try to chase today. One of the coolest trophies in all of NASCAR. We'll see who will take that home here in the matter of about another hour and a half or so. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content as we are on the road to 2,000 subscribers. We're almost there, and not only that, but we're on the road to hopefully one day getting me into the commentating booth. So appreciate your support as always. We're about to get into tonight's race. Last night at Daytona was not a good run for Greg Biffle. In fact, the last two races he has finished outside the top 15 in the Busch Series. He finished a lap down in both races at Indianapolis Raceway Park, finishing 16th and then finishing 35th last night. Last car on the actual racetrack that finished the race and was the only driver one lap down at the end of it. Got caught up in an accident early and just did not have speed the rest of the way and struggled to get back on the lead lap because there was no more cautions throughout the rest of the race. So we'll see how today will play. Another short track this season, his second one in the last three races. IRP was where that 16th place run came. And the good news is Greg Biffle is starting on the pole tonight, and he still has the points lead for the Busch Series. He has a 103-point lead over Ron Hornaday. Kyle Busch just over 120 points back in third as well. Let me pause it real quick. There was a lot of you guys waiting in the chat, so appreciate your guys' patience. Patrick Chatterley, Derek Booth, Billy Carjoy, Stands with Ukraine, We the People, GIG2, Furfur Express, Seth Thomas, R6R6, Michael Turner, Billy Kramer, Craig Franklin. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Glad to see all of you that waited patiently. I appreciate it. I did have to update OBS there for a sec. I've been kind of procrastinating updating it the last couple of days when it probably should have been updated, and I was actually kind of hoping that I was going to do it tomorrow when I was off of work, but oh well. I had it updated, so set to go here right about 7:15 tonight. Green flag is going to be in the air. Greg Biffle will lead the field to the green, starting on the pole for the second straight Busch Series race. Hopefully things go better today than what it did last night at Daytona. 200 laps, 200 miles around the Monster Mile at Dover. And Biffle's going to start off hot. He should be able to lead lap 1 off of turn 4. And it looks like the driver's second in points, Ron Hornaday, is up to second place after starting third and getting by Tim Fedewill on the start. Hornaday overdrives turns 1 and 2. He goes up to the outside at Fedewill with a little bit of a crossover now. Looks like something might have happened on lap 1 that broke the field into two packs. And Fedewill was clear off of turn 4 finally on Hornaday. Hornaday going to look low though into turn 1, trying to get to Fedewill, not going to be able to do it. Kind of touch the apron right in the middle of the corner as well. Trying to put some separation on the field behind him, knowing that there is a battle for second going on right now. As far as mileage goes, this race is 50 miles shorter than the one last night. Last night's race was pretty short as well. At Daytona, at least it flew by with only one caution. See, Hornaday's right back into second place again, making his way up the racetrack to clear Fedewill off of turn 4. Fedewill is still stuck on the outside. It looks like Bobby Hamilton Jr. in third place now in the 25 car. And an upset winner last night at Daytona, the Busch Series. Hermie Sadler got his first win of the year, making him the 6th different winner this season. Greg Biffle still the only driver with multiple wins on the year through 13 races. Let's hope nobody spins Biffle out. Yeah, that was the only reason Biffle got caught up in that accident last night off the exit of turn 2 as well. It was Dwayne Borland in the 135 car who tried to pull in line behind him off the exit of turn 2. Either that or was trying to aggressively side draft him off the exit of turn 2, but either way, he clipped that left rear corner panel of the 60, moved up the track just a little too far, and turned him head on into the inside wall in the back straightaway. And Biffle had a lot of front end damage from that point on. And never got a caution to get back into it. Ended up going a lap down before the end of the race as well. Dark Crypto, welcome to the stream. Yeah, I was kind of rooted for the Roush guys. Like, I was a Biffle fan growing up, but Kenseth, Edwards, Mark Martin, David Reagan, Trevor Bayne there for a little bit. Even Stenhouse in Biffle's later days. I always rooted for Roush. Kind of the same thing with Penske in a way now. Like, as an organization, I hope they succeed, because if they're succeeding, then I know Blaney's in a good spot for good runs. And that's kind of how I felt with Biffle, even at a younger age, not knowing as much as I do now. Just knowing that, okay, if Kenseth and Edwards are competing for a championship, the Biffle's in a good spot too. And Biffle had a couple really good seasons in the mid to late 2000s. Even into the early 2010s, he was still relatively competitive. Winning multiple races this season. You know, finishing in the top 7 or 8 points consistently. Favorite generation car in NASCAR? Based off the pure sound alone, I think Gen 4. You listen to the Crank It Up sessions on the super speedways with the Gen 4 car and the way they hum around that track, it's just, I mean, it's music to my ears anyway, but there's just such a, I mean, some of it might be nostalgic for me too, which is probably playing into, in large part, why I feel that. As a kid, I remember the Car of Tomorrow with the wing was pretty fun, but that was just because I was a kid and I was a big fan of sprint cars, so they had the little wing on the back of it. I was like, oh, they got a wing too. But, you know, now that I've, you know, gotten older and realized how much of a safety hazard that thing actually was, especially on the, even on the intermediates, we saw cars taking flight. That just wasn't ideal. As a kid, I didn't know better or didn't know otherwise. Greg Biffle is pulling away in the early going. Already out to about a 1.1 second lead. Hornaday looks to still be in second place. Does have one car right in line behind him, which is Bobby Hamilton Jr. No wonder what kind of speed Bobby Hamilton Jr. has in his race car. Maybe he could challenge Greg Biffle for the lead as long as Biffle doesn't get too far out ahead. It'll be interesting to see how many pit stops are going to have in today's race. If it's going to be a 1 or a 2 stopper, we'll obviously just have to wait and see as this one plays out. I remember you stating something last night's stream about creating a track on Minecraft. I'll be honest, I've never played Minecraft a day in my life. Not a big video game guy. Sports games is pretty much all I stuck to. And honestly, I think the only game I can recall playing just within the last probably 2 to 3 months that isn't the NASCAR games that I'm streaming is SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, to be completely honest. Online lobbies are Saturday. I do believe I have it in the community tab for the weekly schedule. I believe it's Saturday. I know I had it for one of the days this weekend. I might have to go back and look. It may switch to Friday because I have another appointment with my car after work, and I don't know how long that's going to take because I had to get my engine changed. I had to get my oil changed last week. Not an engine change. I had to get an oil change last week, and I'm taking it back in this week to get a new serpentine belt. It shouldn't take that long. Community tab, it says Saturday. Yeah, if there's any updates, otherwise I'll inform you guys in the community tab like usual if I end up having to switch something around. Biffle's still pulling away, about 1.9 second lead now. Nothing is easy in a full race. Anything could obviously happen. A caution, a bad restart, or change of pit strategy on a whim could drop track position as well. We don't know what the 60 car would handle like in traffic, or if it could pass cars very well. Dover's always been one of the harder tracks to try and make a pass on, even with multiple grooves. Wider in the corners. It's just so narrow on the straightaways. It's hard to actually be able to clear somebody. I should say, once you clear somebody, that's the best chance to pull up in line and make the pass. You almost have to make it in one corner. It's really hard to set drivers up, getting to the inside of them off the exit of one corner, and then being able to actually keep enough momentum to stay inside by the time you get down into the next corner. Usually the run off the outside is so strong here, and the car on the bottom tends to have to lift to keep it off the car on the outside because of how much it narrows on the straightaways, and that's why we've seen major accidents here at Dover in the past. Especially on the back straightaway, even more narrow than the front stretch, but they're still both narrow with that inside retaining wall very close to the actual race surface itself. Really is no apron on the straightaways around this racetrack. I think I remember you stating something about that the other day, Seth, but again, congratulations. You too as well, Derek. At 2.3 second lead and growing. Can't tell if Hornaday is still at second or if Bobby Hamilton Jr. is now taking the lead. We are 25 laps in, caution-free so far tonight. We've had 3 caution-free races so far on the Busch Series season. Definitely know the NASCAR 21 Ignition will return to the channel tomorrow night, as we'll have our running of the Coca-Cola 600. That will start a little bit earlier tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Starting it earlier so we can get it done at a decent time, considering the race is probably going to take over 3 hours. Assuming I make it to the end, at least. That's always a big if with NASCAR 21 Ignition. Quite a ways yet before Biffle would even catch any sort of lap traffic. So he's definitely liking the clean air he's got right now, making life easy for him. Biffle was always pretty good at Dover in the Cup Series, one of his better racetracks if you would consider Dover a short track, which I do. Any track 1 mile and less in length. Race is so much more different, using the brakes so much more than what you would on the mile and a half and bigger, that I consider this a short track. And Greg Biffle probably better here and at New Hampshire. Both the 1 mile racetracks he had a lot of success at, but I'd say Dover a little bit more so than New Hampshire. Was also pretty good at Darlington, which is less than a mile and a half in length, but that's more of an intermediate because it's more towards that mile and a third category. In-between point in my eyes. Definitely races like one with how narrow the track is. And again, how much braking you have to go with how much narrow the track is, especially on older surface. I've never played NASCAR Heat Mobile. I don't have any games on my phone right now as it is. I couldn't tell you the last time I had a game on my phone. It was probably when I when I first got a phone, because there were some games that were already on there and I played, and that was pretty much about it. It didn't last long. I've always been more into the console side of gaming. Never got into playing games on my phone. I want to say probably, I want to say I was 16 when I got my first phone. I definitely didn't have one when I was growing up, when I was younger. So it was probably then, and it wasn't maybe only a couple months into having it, I just stopped playing games on my phone. I mean, anybody that knows me now, I don't really get on social media a lot either, which is probably why I haven't posted on my Instagram in a while, even when I'm on the road and traveling and stuff. I missed the opportunity of posting something when I was at Daytona, so I kind of didn't want to post anything at any of the other races I've gone to this year because I missed out on the opportunity of posting anything from the Daytona 500. I'm grinding on Candy Crush. Never played it a day in my life. I don't even know how that game works, to be completely honest. I've heard of it, and that's about it. I think the last game I had on my phone was this golf solitaire game, and I can't remember what it was called. I had this stupid gopher on it, but I liked it because of the commentary on the game was pretty funny, and that's really the only reason I played it. I honestly can't remember what the name of it is. Fairway Golf? I think that's what it was called. It was solitaire, but it was golf themed. There's two older commentators that were really funny. At least, you know, for that time in my life, which I guess, you know, like I said, I would have been about 16. My humor probably hasn't changed that much in the last probably 6-7 years, but maybe I wouldn't find that stuff as funny anymore. I don't know. He can sing. You guys do not want to hear me sing. I have zero musical talent. I feel like when I listen to the music I listen to, maybe sometimes I can pull off good screams. That's probably in my head, though. I doubt that they're actually good. I will say, though, I do like talking about music. I just can't play. I'm not instrumentally inclined. I always thought it'd be cool to play guitar, but I never really got into playing it. And I know how much effort it would take, and knowing that once I start something, I really try to finish it and try to get involved with it. And I don't have enough time to be able to put as much dedication and time into it as what I would want if I started. It would probably take up a lot of my golf game, to be completely honest, when the weather's warm, so I don't want to do that. I do like golfing. Burns down building. That's not... It's crazy, though. Like, when you're on the outside and when you're growing up, well, at least in my eyes, the music I listen to now, I didn't listen to growing up. Like, I listened to I grew up on, like, a lot of 80s and 90s rock music, you know, whatever they would play on the radio play and stuff like that. And I still like that, you know, every now and then I'll go back and listen to that stuff, but that's not really what I listen to now. It's more metal, and, like, some of the stuff is radio play, but only like a couple songs from a couple bands, really, and that's about it. And a lot of them are from yesteryear and not so much currently. I wish more people were into it, though, because I don't really get the opportunity. Like, I think I know of one person that I work with that listens to two people I work with that listen to similar music to me. And that's, like, the only thing I can relate with them to, is because that's, like, the only thing we have in common. I don't really talk to them too much anyway, so, you know, that's part of it. But then I have this one friend that we kind of got into it around the same time, and I would say we probably got each other into listening to the music we listen to now. There's some good stuff in there. Like, my dad was like, why do you listen to that stuff? And then, like, a couple days later, like, after I was first starting to listen to it, he was listening to some of the same songs I was listening to. I was just like, I thought you said you didn't like it or whatever, or that you didn't like the screaming. He was like, it's actually kind of melodic when you listen to it a couple times. I was like, yeah. Like, there's actually some catchy stuff in there, and it's just something you have to listen to a couple times. Trust me, the first time I listened to it, it was probably, you know, a couple days, couple weeks before I went back and listened to it again, but I gave it another try, and then I, you know, kind of found enjoyment. The stuff I listen to now wasn't even the stuff I was listening to then. Yeah, I never really got into country music, which is weird considering I'm a NASCAR fan. NASCAR originated in the South. And never really got into rap. It was always rock and roll. Like, my parents always listened to that, so I kind of grew up on it. And if it wasn't for listening to that, I wouldn't listen to the music I listen to now. So that's probably another reason why I still kind of keep a fond attachment to it. one of the bands I listened to just dropped a single like a week or a week and a half ago that I've been listening to a couple. Usually I don't listen to the same song more than once a day, but this song I've been listening to it like at work, when I get home in a workout, or maybe if I have any sort of spare time between just sitting here before the stream. I've been playing it and stuff. It's the song's called Cyber Hex for Motionless in White. Even if you don't really listen to rock or metal, I think you would actually. It's a lot of, there's a lot of cleaner vocals in there. I feel like most people generally, if they listen to it, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's pretty good, or like, oh yeah, I kind of like it. I feel like that would be the general consumption. So I highly recommend that song because I've been addicted to it the last couple days. The chorus is so catchy, especially at the end of the song. The outro is probably the best part. From the breakdown all the way through the outros, the best part of the song. Jackson Thomas, welcome to the stream as well. I mean, there's some, like, if I had to listen to rap, I'd probably pick stuff from, like, the anywhere from the late 90s into the early 2000s. Like, if I had to listen to it, I can tolerate at least a little bit of it. But so far, 50 laps in tonight, caution free, and Greg Biffle's led every lap from the pole. That's pretty much all you need to know, because that's all that's really gone down just past the first lap car a couple laps ago. And currently Biffle has about a 4.3 second lead and growing, as he clearly has the fastest car on the racetrack to start this race. But as we get into pit stops, probably right around the halfway mark, we're going to be seeing pit stops. It's going to be interesting to see who can make it on fuel on potentially one stop and who might need two stops to make it. Maybe everybody's going to need two. Again, just have to wait and see how this all plays out. Definitely don't want a short pit on a shorter track like Dover, only being 1 mile in length. Jeez. That's not having the chat to sing. I don't sing, man. Not unless I'm like in my car is like the only time I would even, by myself is like the only time I would even think of myself singing. I'll hum stuff every now and then, like if I'm at work just trying to kill time or take my mind off of things, I'll do that. Yeah, don't short pit. Definitely don't plan on it tonight. Greg Biffle just hit halfway on fuel. It was in the middle of turns 3 and 4 at lap 54 that last time by, so he is pacing to be able to make it on one pit stop today. Again, we'll have to see if that's going to be the case for everybody. I'm sure we'll see drivers pit as soon as that window opens, but maybe they'll end up even pitting before that, so we'll keep a very close eye on it. Thank you for hitting the like button as well. Already 10 likes on the stream. I think we only ended up with like 14 or 15 last night, so let's see if we can get to at least 20 tonight. It's Brantley's the next lap car out in front of Biffle. But for anybody, you know, wondering what kind of music I like, just to finish off on where we were a couple laps ago, that's kind of the music I listen to. And one song that is new that I would recommend, again, would be Motionless in White, Cyber Hex. And who knows, I'd say if you like it, you'll probably like some of their other stuff too. I'm not saying you'll like all of it, at least right out of the gate, but that's one song I guarantee a lot of people, that's like a good, like, kind of not mainstream, I'm trying to, like a gateway song into listening to them. That and Voices is probably, I'd say Voices is by far their most well-known song, but probably one of my favorites from them too, honestly. I think that's like collectively, any fans of that band, that's probably their favorite song. Which is ridiculous because that's probably one of the more popular songs in the metal scene right now, because I want to say on YouTube alone, their music videos got like 40 million views, and that song just came out like 2.5 years ago. It's crazy. Usually don't see that kind of views for like newer bands or newer newer songs in that genre. Like, that's a lot for any sort of like rock or metal band nowadays. Especially in that short of a time frame. Like over time, you'll see stuff that's like 10 years old that has that, but not like 2.5 years old. Definitely a lot of lap traffic going on around Greg Biffle right now. He's passed a few cars over the last couple laps. He's still got at least probably 6 more coming up within the next couple laps alone. 40 laps remain until we get to the halfway mark. Biffle's getting through the traffic though pretty well. He's still growing that lead out little by little. 5.2 to 5.3 seconds in the middle of turns 1 and 2. Biffle's not hit anything yet in this race today as well. Not another car or the wall. 3 wide though for the first time in lap traffic, and he'll make the 3 wide pass on both the lap cars, and they get together behind him. Driver on the outside, I couldn't tell who that was, but he got squeezed into the wall. Miller getting a little loose off of turn 2. Biffle checks up. Trying to find a way around Craig Miller. Oh boy. Biffle got loose off turn 2 that time. He's still out of shape. He's just going to have to let Miller go into turn 3. Otherwise, he was probably going to clean them both out. Especially Metallica. Yeah, my favorite album of all time is Metallica's Injustice for All. Like, usually when I listen to a song from that album, I'm listening to, like, the whole album. Or I'll listen to one song from it, and I'll just, like, listen to another. Like, that's one album I can just go back and listen to whenever I really want. But, I mean, Metallica's my all-time favorite band, too, so that probably plays some. I can pretty much do that with most of their albums, but that one in particular is my favorite. White Hanson, Reese Stallcup, welcome to the stream, guys. Yeah, it's crazy on the Technics games. They're pretty crazy here. NASCAR Thunder 2004 is about as crazy as I've seen them. Just with how aggressively they race you. They can be an ally with you on Thunder 04 and they'll still block you. I mean, you'll have that from time to time here in 05, but it's not as much. It's like almost every ally still does the same thing in Thunder 04. Ooh, Sean Batson into the wall off the exit of turn 2 after Biffle put him a lap down. Ride the Lightning. Yeah, I'd probably say that would be... And that might be number 4. It's still a really good album, but... Hetfield's voice and Injustice for All and the Black Album, like that alone, I feel like puts those 2 albums up at the top 2 for me. The Black Album, Master of Puppets, is interchangeable, but Hetfield's voice in that era, those like 4 or 5 years really between then and, you know, the tours they went on and stuff. Even into Load, you can kind of still get that voice out of him a little bit at times, but it's like the coolest voice, best voice. Mark DeMars, welcome to the stream. He's playing guitar. 20% is 100 laps. Where? What track? Well, Bristol. Yeah, Bristol, that would be about 100 laps. Bristol and Martinsville. %25% would be 100 laps here in a cup race. Yep, the monster mile today. Greg Biffle has dominated this race so far. Chance to lead over 1,000 laps on the Busch Series season, but he's got to lead almost every lap today to be able to do that. I'd say right now it's working well for him. I mean, he's led every lap since starting on the pole and has really not even had a fight for the lead at all. From lap 1, he has been gone. And it's not like it's too gigantic of a lead either. It's about 5.7, 5.8 seconds. Definitely a comfortable lead. And he's just ran cleanly, even with the lap cars. He went 3 wide 1 point in time, but hasn't hit the wall, hasn't hit another car yet. He has kept this number 60 charter car as spotless as he could. Racing at Dover tonight, Wyatt. Ryan Manham, welcome to the stream. Running on assist or no? Limited. Limited stability with the EA games. But that's just so I can make a full race somewhat consistently. I still DNF every now and then. And even though I'm on limited assists, you guys still see me get out of shape every now and then too. I feel like if I had more focus, if I wasn't, you know, looking at the chat and having to commentate, I'd probably be able to run without any assists majority of the time, but I'm having to multitask on like 2 or 3 different things while I'm racing every night. So if I make a minor mistake, it's not going to cost me quite as much. Where if I made a minor mistake with no assists, if I was looking at the chat at the wrong time like I will every now and then I'm just going to wreck. I don't want to do that. Because I do want to look at your guys' comments as much as I possibly can. Jesus Manuel Ortiz, welcome to the stream. Doing pretty good. Hopefully you are as well. 6-second lead right now. 18 likes on the stream. Thanks for everybody smashing that like button tonight. We're already more than what we had last night. We're not even halfway home. And we raced at Daytona last night too. Greatly appreciate all you guys doing that. Track is the next race. For the Busch series, I want to say Darlington, but I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to go back and look. This custom schedule season. I believe it's Darlington, but I'm not entirely sure. Wouldn't quote me on that one. Closing in on Hermie Sadler in the 0-2 car. Last night's winner at Daytona, about to go a lap down, just shy of the midway point today. Still caution free. That's one thing that's helped Biffle out as well. Hasn't had to try and fight through any restarts. We don't know who is in second anymore, so who knows if it might be a little bit better on the short run than Biffle. One thing at this point is going to be trying to keep this track position as much as possible if you are Greg Biffle. And that is going to be the strategy from here, is just trying to keep this track position. My favorite track of all time, Bristol. When I was a kid, even now, favorite racetrack to attend in person, I'd probably say Bristol. Daytona 500 is my favorite race I've been to, just with everything that goes along with it, with the build-up of speed weeks and everything. After being there for my first 500 this year, that's my favorite race. But my favorite racetrack, I think, still is Bristol, even now after going to Daytona, to be completely honest. I've only been there twice, to Bristol twice. I mean, last year alone, I mean, you guys, whether you were there or not, if you watched the Bristol races last year, all 3 of them were good, but the Xfinity and the Cup race, especially last season, were probably the 2 best races all year. And I got to see them in the same weekend, and that was just insane in person. Definitely a weekend I'll never forget as far as racing quality goes. And yeah, Daytona 500, like I said, it was a lot of fun. Super Speedway racing's a lot of fun to go to in person. It's just wild. You really are on the edge of your seat the entire time. But you're like that with Bristol too, just watching battles all over the track, because it's non-stop that way. But it's a different kind of non-stop. Like, I like Michigan because it's a home track and it's an hour and a half away from me, but it's kind of a newer family tradition since 2018 as well to go there for at least one race out of the year. Now they only have one. I was going to both there for a couple years, but My family was really only going to one. I think part of Biffle's success on this longer run, you look at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen where the lap times are, and his lap times have only gone down about a tenth, almost 2/10 of a second on average a lap, and that's it, despite the fact that Dover is typically a track where there's a lot of tire wear, especially with this concrete surface over the long green flag runs. Been to Charlotte Motor Speedway to see the Christmas lights. That's pretty cool that they do that. I don't know, maybe most tracks do that. I don't really know. I don't have any that I can just like I said, Michigan's like an hour and a half away from me. And it's not in a very rural area. Like, that's one of the few tracks I've been to where it's not near a major city. Like, Detroit's about a half hour away, I guess, but just the how the location is, it's out in the middle of nowhere. Every other track, except for Talladega and Martinsville, I've been to, they're pretty much, at least it's some sort of, even if it's, considered a city, 20, 30,000 people, at least there's something there, there's something there, but those three tracks, there's nothing. It's like no civilization. Yep, trivia question coming up pretty soon tonight. Jimmy Hill gets a little out of shape getting into turns 1 and 2. Left a lot of bottom open. Greg Biffle will work his way underneath him. $21 likes on the stream already. You guys are knocking it out of the park tonight. We might get to 30 likes on a Busch race. I can't tell you if that's actually happened before or not on the channel for a Busch or Xfinity race. Some cars are on pit road as we speak, right around lap 92, 93. That is borderline on being able to make it to the end if they are short pitting. I definitely don't think Greg Biffle could go that far on fuel. I'm guessing about 107 laps roughly is all the further Greg Biffle can go on fuel, and I don't think he's going to risk it past that either. But he definitely doesn't want a short pit with the rest of these guys just shy of the halfway mark. Just in case we get a caution in the middle of green flag pit stops, which we had at Indianapolis Raceway Park when Greg Biffle short pit and he got trapped 2 laps down. He made one of those laps back up in the second half of the race, but not both of them. Sonoma's in an awkward spot. I mean, Mid-Ohio's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but that's not in the Cup Series. Eldora is the same way, but those tracks were never in the Cup Series, so I'm not going to include them with it. Watkins Glen even has, some area, towns within 5 minutes of the racetrack. A couple of them that are decent size. The way it's set up in the mountains and stuff. The track itself, I guess you could kind of consider is in the middle of nowhere. Pocono is also in the middle of nowhere. I kind of forgot about that. Now I'm thinking about it, I was I got off the highway and there was nothing there except for a racetrack. And a bunch of trees. Even Road America has, what is it, Johnsonville? 3 miles down the road. The track itself is in the middle of nowhere because it's a 4-mile road course. And it's kind of like that with Watkins Glen. It's a 2.5-mile road course. But even, there's at least some towns within a couple miles of it that you could, go to eat after the race or before the race, whatever. They have some chain restaurants. But it's not like that with, Talladega. You probably got to go on the highway, drive probably 5 to 10 miles on the highway itself once you get there. Martinsville, there's like no highway within like 2 hours, at least that I know of. I took a country road from 77 on the interstate to the racetrack. It was that far off. Unless there's a highway if you were maybe on the east side, because I came in from the west. But from the east, it was all country roads for like the last 2 hours of the drive. Well, we'll be halfway this time by officially, which would mean Greg Biffle will lock up 10 bonus points for leading the most laps in today's race, considering that he has led every lap so far in this race tonight. Been in the middle of green flag pit stops for about 7 or 8 laps now. Should be a one-stopper for Greg Biffle. His pit crew made a mistake last night at Daytona under one of the 2 pit stops in that race. Kyle Busch working his way out of the pit lane. Stay right in front of Biffle. He's 1 lap down. I stream pretty much every day, unless I'm on the road going to a race or I have something planned in advance, but you guys would be aware of that well before the day before or anything. A little contact with the 152 car, and the 152 gets into the wall off the exit of turn 2 as well. That was the first time Biffle's made even contact with another driver today, and it took 102 laps to get to that point. Still has kept it off the wall all day long, which is impressive. This being a very narrow racetrack off corner exit. I mean, there's a lot of stuff next to Daytona. I'm guessing Daytona probably built that city, to be completely honest. With the track being around since '59, there's no way there was that much stuff there. A lot of the restaurants and stuff look new. Like, they look like they've been there for 20 years or less, kind of thing. Like, they were just kind of adding stuff with them the last 2 to 3 decades. A lot of that stuff probably wasn't there back in the late 80s, early 90s. Have to go back and look at like aerial shots of Daytona to verify that from that time. Lap 105 right now. Biffle's going to stay out just 1 more lap. He'll go to lap 106 and then he'll pit. Doesn't want to risk anything further than that. He got to the halfway mark on fuel at about lap 54. And he is the last car on the lead lap, so I believe he's the last car that still has to hit pit road. 1 car has blown an engine and is on the pit lane, but that is the only driver who's had an engine issue tonight. Last night at Daytona, we had 7 drivers have an engine failure and failed to finish that race. That's why Biffle finished 35th, even though he was the only car 1 lap down. Outlasted at least a lot of drivers who DNF. Very tough pit road to get onto at Dover. Greg Biffle had to lock the brakes up to get there as he almost missed it. 4 tires and fuel, no adjustments for the 60 car as he's on pit road for the 1 and only time today at lap 106, coming to lap 107. Found Daytona Beach 1934, but not super sure who founded Daytona Beach first yet. Well, I'm sure Daytona Beach was like founded. I don't think he founded the beach. There's no way. 1934, like, it's not like the 1700s where it was discovered for like the first time ever, you know what I mean? Like, somebody had to have known it was there. For working his way out of the pit lane underneath the 107 car, Gene Martin. Biffle overran the corner a little bit. Has to drop in line behind Martin off the exit of turn 4. Lap 108, though, Biffle's back up to speed, about a 7.5 second lead, which is about how big his lead was when the green flag pit stop started. So even though he was the last car to hit pit road during the middle of green flag stops, he didn't really lose any time. Maybe a couple tenths, and that was about it. All agreed NASCAR needs to lead Texas Motor Speedway. As bad as Texas is, I just say one date. We definitely don't need to go there twice. There's pretty much every track we don't need to go there twice. I say one date and not have it be a 500-mile race. I would say anywhere between 350 to 450, just to make it different. I don't want it at 400 right on the nose either, because we have too many mile-and-a-halfs that are 400 miles. Like, literally every mile-and-a-half track on the circuit is a 400-mile race at least once. The only one that's not is Atlanta, but that's because they have 2 dates, and one's 500, one's 400, which I'm all right with, because they're at least, it makes some sort of variety in races there, and I've kind of talked about this before on the channel. Like, if you are going to have 2 dates, you need to make your races very different for one another. Like Richmond this year, 2 races, both 400 laps, and they're both in the daytime. That doesn't make any sense to me. Why, at least last year, one was a night race. You know what I mean? So the track conditions are going to be different. Track conditions are going to be relatively the same. It's a little warmer in August, obviously, than what it's going to be there next week. But it's still going to be sunny. Like the track temp, it's like the air temperature is going to be different, but the track temp isn't going to be that much warmer if it's sunny outside this weekend. Speedway Boulevard is Friday. NASCAR 21 Ignition live stream on Saturday. That will be for an online lobby, our first one on NASCAR 21 Ignition on the channel. So if you have NASCAR 21 Ignition, you have a PS4, we'll be going online. I'm not sure if the PS4 and the PS5 is the same online network or not. So if you have a PS5, you might be able to get on, but I don't know for sure. Down on the apron, big slide job, and he's clear off of turn 4. And those left sides on the middle of the apron just started to push up the racetrack once he hit there, so it's a good thing he cleared the car to his outside. Still trying to stay out of trouble today. We may see our 4th caution-free Busch Series race this season in what is only the 14th race of the year. And all of them have come from race 8 to now as well. So we have had a lot of caution-free races as of late in the Busch Series. Even last night at Daytona only had 1 yellow, and we had 5 at Daytona in the season opener. Last night's race was only 20 laps shorter. In the bottom lane, going to clear David Green off of turn 4 as well. Again, tomorrow night's live stream, NASCAR 21 Ignition Coca-Cola 600. It'll start at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so a lot earlier tomorrow so we can get that race done at a reasonable time. Should get it done before, I should say before, probably right between 8 and 8:30. I'm sure the race will get done tomorrow, assuming we obviously get all the way to the end. If we fail to make it halfway, you guys know the drill with that game. We'll do some trivia at the end of the night, which is a good segue into tonight's trivia, because we have our trivia question of the night, of course, that we've been doing here the last probably just over a week on the channel now. Tonight's trivia question in the Stacker 200 at Dover is presented by Miles the Monster. He'll come out and get you. He's really scary. I would not, you know, honestly, I don't know if this is true or not, but I would imagine when I was younger, I was somewhat afraid of Miles the Monster. You know, that's almost like a scary, mean-looking face, the red eyes and stuff. I feel like that could freak a little kid out. Like a really, really little kid. Especially if you're there in person. Because they have this giant Miles the Monster statue outside front of Dover, which is honestly, it's a pretty badass statue to be fair. But if you're like 3 years old, you look up at that thing and how big it is, you probably get pretty scared, I would imagine. I would have to imagine you get pretty scared. With the red eyes, it looks like it's following you everywhere. Yeah, but anyway, needless to say, he will be presenting tonight's trivia question because we still don't have a sponsor on the channel. So tonight's trivia question is... I gotta remember the trivia question. Oh, geez, what do we have here? Oh yeah, I forgot the trivia question. I was talking about Miles the Monster. So tonight's trivia question is, of course, related to Dover. How many races has it been in the NASCAR Cup Series since the last driver to win on the pole at Dover? So how many races have gone by since the last driver has won from the pole at Dover in the Cup Series? I think the answer is going to shock most of you. Dover is obviously known as more of a track position track, as we mentioned earlier tonight. It's very hard to pass here, but it's been a while since the pole sitter has won at Dover. How many races has it been exactly is the question down in the chat. And I'll give you guys the answer to that question at lap 135 if I don't see it guessed before that. Oh, big loose moment. Biffle overdrove 1 and 2. Had to lock the brakes up a little bit mid-slide, and Blue Castleberry's going to just hop back in front of him. Longer than 10 races, Patrick. A lot longer than 2 as well. Not 5, not 26. I don't want to give any hints with tonight's other than telling you guys it's been a little while. It's been quite a few races. That'll be the only hint tonight. That'll tell you it's been more than at least a few years. And they just started racing their 1 race a year last season. So you got to put into mind also that they have had 2 races a year there prior to 2021. Biffle to the inside of Atwood. Really low and deep dive into turns 3 and 4. It'll clear Atwood off the exit of the corner, putting him a lap down. No free pass in the Busch series, so these drivers going a lap down right now are having a tougher time. Not 37. That's a little too much. Not 45 either. You guys are going way in the opposite direction. It hasn't been quite that long, but it's been a while. Not 18, not 12. I still haven't seen the answer. Not 30. Yeah, you guys have 6 more laps. And it looks like Tyler Burbeck was the first one to get it. It has been 20 races. So Tyler Burbeck has guessed correctly down in the chat. It has been 20 races since the last time a driver in the Cup Series has won from the pole at Dover. Jimmy Johnson was the last to do so in 2010. So 2010, Jimmy Johnson was the last time anybody has won from the pole at Dover. It's hard to believe that's a lot of races to go without a pole sitter winning at a specific racetrack, especially a shorter track like Dover. Like I said, it's very tough to pass there, but he was the last one. It's been over a decade. And that's with 2 races a year there outside of 2021. Yeah, somebody said 18. I didn't want to say like real close. And you guys were going in the wrong direction where I saw like 45 and 37 up there. I'm like, oh, these guys are never going to get it if they're guessing those numbers. But more than a couple at least. Randomly guessing by 2 after 18. You're lucky it wasn't an odd number. You're lucky they didn't race there yet this year, otherwise you would have gotten it wrong. Going to say Jimmy Johnson. Oh, we got a car blowing up on the backstretch. Mike Bliss in the 20 has blown an engine. He's going to dive, and he is going to barely... Oh, man, he almost wiped out. That was a close call for Mike Bliss. He made a really late dive off the exit of turn 4. And nearly smoked the entrance to the pit lane. Right at the front of pit road, there's those tire barrier, or not the tire barriers, but the barrels. And Bliss nearly hit that. He got really sideways when he transitioned off the banking down to the flat of the racetrack. And he blew an engine probably 3/4 of the way down the backstretch, so he had to make that late decision to get into the pits before he would have had to make it slow 1 lap all the way around. Very fortunate not to wreck there. David Stremme holding Greg Biffle back still. Biffle sitting right behind him. And he'll finally get to the left side of Stremme on his inside off the exit of turn 4. A 10.7 second lead. Largest lead of the day for Biffle. And David Stremmy's the first car 1 lap down. So he gets into the wall off of turn 2. Another car has blown an engine on the inside of the racetrack, and that would be Jeff Burton in the 9 car. So Jeff Burton has blown an engine as well. Second driver in the last couple laps to blow an engine. I believe he's the 3rd driver total today to have an engine failure. Liam Matek, welcome to the stream. Underneath the 106 car now for Biffle. Again, everybody is good. Well, at least Greg Biffle's good on fuel and tires to the end of the race. Most of the field is probably good as well. There were drivers that started pitting around lap 92, 93. They're going to be a little closer on fuel. But for the most part, everybody's going to be good to the end. At least of the leaders. Biffle really loose off turn 4. He was way too low off the exit of the corner trying to dive under Yaley. Oh, Yaley got a little out of shape. Biffle not going to be able to make a pass on him, though. Biffle's closing on the back of the 18 car once again. Dives it pretty low into turns 1 and 2. He's under Yaley. Kind of pinched himself off a little too much. Yaley trying to hold strong on the outside. Biffle clear into turn 3. And Yaley almost got the wall off of turn 4 himself. 60 laps to go now at Dover. 16 people watching the stream right now. 22 likes. We've already hit our golden eye, but we'll see if we can get to 30. I don't know if we've done that for an Xfinity or a Busch Series race on the channel before. So let's see if we can do that here tonight. We set a new stream record on the channel for the Busch Series races. Heat 4 and Heat 5 are definitely better than Ignition. Nothing wrong with still playing those games. Especially with what we have now for the new game. Or newest game. Ty Dillon flipped at Bristol. NASCAR Heat 5. At least it's not like NASCAR 21 Edition where you could have like an endless barrel roll at Martinsville. You turn the right way and hit properly. Crash physics are so weird in that game. Physics in general are weird in that game. We flipped over the turtles at Daytona before on the road course. My favorite streamer? I don't really watch anybody that streams. The only thing I really watch that's streamed on a regular basis is the NASCAR Weekly Podcast, but I usually don't watch it live. Like, I don't work on Thursdays, at least at my most recent job I've had for, a little over a year now, probably about like 14, 15 months. But I've been listening to that on like Thursdays when I'm off of work. Like, if it's warmer outside, I'll hit the golf course in the morning. I'll be listening to it while I golf or something, just, catching up on any... It helps me catch up on any news I missed throughout the course of the week with having to work and working on the YouTube channel and stuff, that I tend to miss things from time to time. Especially now that I'm doing the live race commentary on the weekend for a lot of the races this year. I have to make sure I'm up to date on the news. And that's an easy way for me to be able to do it and listen to it and hear other people's opinions on the sport of NASCAR too, because I don't really get the opportunity to talk to anybody, that I really at all about NASCAR, so it's nice to hear that conversation or hear people talking about NASCAR in a sports talk, podcast or radio kind of situation. Channels themselves that I've been watching a lot recently, so I'm into pro wrestling. Chris Van Vliet does great wrestling interviews on YouTube. If you're a WWE fan or a wrestling fan of any kind, I highly recommend listening to his podcast. He's got a bunch of wrestlers, past, present, that he'll have on there. Usually 2 or 3 times a week he'll have an interview with somebody that's anywhere between usually 45 minutes to like an hour and a half or so. Like, he just had Lita on there. I think that uploaded earlier today, and I watched it before I went live today, so that was a pretty cool interview. A lot of in-depth stuff, whether it's, you know, throughout their career and stuff. A lot of stuff that most people probably wouldn't know. So you'll learn a lot of new stuff about, you know, whoever your favorite wrestlers or whatever. So that's really fun to watch. But that's not live stream. But that's something I listen to interview-wise and stuff. I've been really into, like, fitness YouTube and stuff like that. Guys I watch on there would be like Simon Miller, who's another kind of wrestling guy, but him. I just most recently got into watching Greg Doucette. Not all of his stuff, but, you know, workout-based stuff. Probably within the last, like, month or so. So I've been kind of watching him quite a bit. Buff Dudes has always been kind of funny. I always kind of go back to them every now and then, though, too, for working out. Your usual NASCAR channels. I don't... It's hard for me to watch, like, every single video and every single NASCAR YouTuber, but... You know, pretty much the NASCAR Weekly Podcast guys, if Slapshoes ever has a video that comes out. Brock Beard does brilliant mini documentaries. Him and NASCAR Chasm do great NASCAR documentaries and auto racing documentaries. I'll watch those. I'll watch that stuff. Winval. I'll catch Radman from time to time. So all those guys, you know, I'll catch them from time to time. I don't watch them, you know, religiously. They all have somewhat entertaining stuff. I lean more towards the side of, you know, the realer stuff. That just intrigues me more. Just listening to stories and stuff. I've always been one on, like, non-fiction. Even when I was growing up, I never really got into reading fiction books. Like, anything that was like fiction novels or fiction stories in class, I hated it. But if we had to do like a book report on something like in history or something real, I was always down for that. Or if I had to like write my own essay and kind of create my own story, I was always good at that, and I always really liked doing that, being imaginative with it. I think that's where my commentating abilities kind of come into play too, because I can think of things really quickly and create things out of nothing mentally. Answer the trivia you put up? Oh, I see it now. I didn't see it earlier. We sponsored the Coke Zero Sugar 400. Is it the best Coke ever? One of the top 5 finishes. 2001 Pepsi 400. So who finished top 5 in the Pepsi 400? Well, obviously Dale Jr. won. Michael Waltrip was second. Third. I can think of the guys who were up there towards the end, but I can't remember the finishing order outside of those two. I know... I'm trying to think who was up there towards the end. Bobby Labonte was up there towards the end of the race. I don't know if he finished top 5 or not. I know Stewart was up there, but I think he fell outside of the top 5 on that last restart. Sterling Marlin was up there too. I don't know if he actually finished in the top 5. Mayfield was up there in the top 10 late, but I don't know if he finished top 5. $30 I'm not going to get them all. At least a perfect, correct response. I can just remember some of the guys who were up there late. But that's pretty much about it. I mean, nobody really remembers all of the top 5, I don't think. And you remember DEI finishing 1-2, and then anything beyond that point is nearly pure luck. I'm pretty sure Bobby Labonte had a top 5 that day. If I had to guess, I think he had a top 5. I know he was up there. He must have really fell back if he didn't. No, he said the 2001 Pepsi 400. Yeah, because the Daytona 500, I know Marlin for a fact had a top. I'm pretty sure he finished top 5. I know Rusty Wallace got top 5 in the Daytona 500 that year. I don't think Wallace was in the top 5 in the Pepsi 400. I don't recall him being up there late. Ashton Lewis, last car on the lead lap in the 46. Left a lot of bottom open for Greg Biffle. Biffle will get underneath, and we have about 36 laps to go. Biffle's got over a half a track lead over second place, about 13.5 seconds. And he has led every single lap today. Can he go wire to wire, leading all 200 from the pole? Really hoping it stays green, because so far we've been caution-free, and that has really helped him do this. He stayed out longer than anybody else during the one and only green flag pit stop we had today as well. Good thing it is a Busch Series race. It's shorter. We only had to get through one pit stop. Marlin didn't get a top 5. Sadler was third. I remember he was good at Daytona when he was with the Wood Brothers, because he finished runner-up in 2002 in the Daytona 500. He finished second then as well. He had some good runs on the super speedways with that team. Labonte was 5th. So I do remember Bobby Labonte being up there late. He did get top 5. I honestly forgot about Ward Burton getting a 4th place finish, which coincidentally he won the 2002 500 as well. So I guess it makes sense that those guys ran well in that race too, only 6 months prior. 7 months. I think I could have gotten around to guessing Ward Burton and Sadler just because I knew they had good runs there. It probably would have taken me a little bit to get there, though. And Biffle's hoping that we have our 4th caution-free race of the year. This is a huge bounce-back performance in such a dominating way for Greg Biffle after 2 finishes outside the top 15 in the Busch Series. And even in the Cup Series side, he has struggled as of late as well. Even though this isn't a Cup race and he's still second in points there, he had a 103-point Busch Series points lead coming into the race today. But just to have a good, solid run, try to get that momentum swinging back in the right direction is going to be big. Now, hopefully, he can do that on the Cup side on Friday night when we go to the next fantasy road course on the schedule at Speedway Boulevard. It's going to be a new test. At least Dover's a track that obviously familiar with. Going to a new track might be a little bit different on Friday night than the Cup Series side of things, but at least he can relax a little bit more in the Busch Series. Yeah, still no caution. We've had 3 caution-free Busch races, only 1 in the Cup Series. This could potentially be the 4th, though, in the Busch Series. But a late caution now would be devastating to Biffle because he hasn't had to really race anybody all day long. So we don't know what kind of short-run speed he's going to have on older tires. If somebody else might be able to get a launch and have a shot at him. Especially leading as many laps as he has today, over 170 and counting. Anything less than a win at this point would be extremely painful. No stage points. He's got 10 bonus points for leading the most laps, but from here on out, outside of those bonus points, nothing else is guaranteed. Got the 119 car a little loose. Off of turn number 4, Biffle hops in line underneath him. Will make the pass on him into turns 1 and 2. Also pass Ray Westbury in the 121, clearing him off of turn 2. A little space before the next lap car now. How many cars were in the... Jeez. Who are the drivers? I don't know if I'm going to be able to name every driver that was involved in that wreck. That's a little absurd. You're talking about the one where Tony Stewart had that flip on the backstretch, right? There were like a dozen cars or more involved in that. I don't think we're going to be able to name all of them. I don't even think I want to name them all. It's hard to do that of a race that happened last week if there were more than a dozen cars involved, let alone 21 years ago. Side-by-side traffic out in front of Biffle. Biffle could definitely be patient with the lap traffic right now. I know he wants to put as many cars a lap down as possible in case we do get a yellow, but oh boy, underneath. One car gets really loose into turn one. Unless it just pull up in line behind him. It's Drew Campbell in the 131 car to the outside of Biffle. Biffle still only made contact with one car in this entire race. A little loose off turn 4 again, but he still drives underneath Lance Brantley in the 109. He's going to go 3 wide. And not quite. They were more side by side by the time they got into turns 3 and 4. 21 laps to go at Dover. Tires are getting old. Definitely harder to handle the car now, and his pace during this run not quite as quick as what it was at the end of that first fuel and tire stint either. He was only a few tenths of a second off. Right now he's more towards a little over a second off, it looks like, at times. His fastest lap of the race though also came during this run. He only ran in the 22.8s. Last run, he got a 22.779 as his fastest lap of the race. It was during the second fuel and tire stint. 19 laps to go with over a 15-second lead on a short track for Greg Biffle. Can't worry about anything around him, just has to worry about hitting his own marks himself, and he'll have this race won today. It'll be his first win in a few races, and again, back-to-back finishes outside the top 15 and finish a lap down in both races as well. It's nice to not only finish on the lead lap, but have a dominating day on top of a good finish. If he could seal this one off. Wide into turn 3. Biffle thinks better of it, and he'll just kind of hop in line behind the 107. Definitely not going to risk it there. Lap 185. Sadly going to cross over Gene Martin. It looks like he clears him down the backstretch as well. Yeah, there are a couple cars hitting pit road right now. I thought we were going to see some drivers that were going to be short on fuel to the end of the race. Some of the drivers that were pitting right around lap 92, 93. So it is not just a one-stopper in this one. It is a one-stopper for Greg Biffle, but as far as the rest of the field goes, not entirely sure. Remember, this is probably the toughest pit road to get onto in NASCAR. Here and probably Darlington are the two toughest. I saw Mike Bliss nearly hit the pit road entrance wall earlier today trying to get to pit road after blowing an engine past halfway down the backstretch. how many times we see cautions in the middle of green flag pit stops in this game, whether it's the Busch or the Cup Series. Could be a little leery for Biffle, especially if we have drivers running out of gas here at the end. Overtaking gas left for Biffle, but again, we know he is good. $11 to go this time by. I don't pay too much attention to the entire league to be able to tell you exactly who I think is going to go to the World Series this year. All I know is I hope my Tigers make the playoffs. I hope they make that next step up from where they were last year. They were right around 500. They can make it as just a wild card team this year, even if they get swept in the wild card round. Just get a berth. Nine laps to go. Car coming out of pits on the bottom. Biffle has more clean traffic in front of him in the middle of turns 3 and 4 rather. A lot of side-by-side traffic behind him, but at least it's in the rear view. 16-second lead now for Biffle, his largest of the day. Not counting in the middle of green flag stops, and he stayed out longer than everybody else as well. So not only we're looking at Greg Biffle potentially winning a caution-free race, but we're potentially looking at Biffle leading every lap in today's race, all 200. He can just hang on from here on out to the end. Six laps to go at the line. We get a caution probably a couple laps down the road. It could end the race at this point as well. No guaranteed green-white checker finishes in the Busch Series in 2004. More cars still running out as we'll be coming to 5 laps to go this time by. Front tires in the yellow right now for Biffle. Just trying to hold on for front grip in that race car. 4 laps left at the line. Now the right rear starting to slip away as well from the 60. A little loose off turn 4, just gradually. Couldn't really tell that much. Had to burp the throttle just a little bit. Sure, the left rear is probably going to go before the end of this one as well. We're still sitting at just the 3 engine failures so far in this race also. 3 to go at the line. I think we're close enough now. We get a caution. This race is going to end. And the drivers who have not made a second stop, outside of Greg Biffle, who we know is good to the end, will these other drivers be able to make it upfield to the end of the race? 2 to go at the line. Biffle will clear Jason Keller. And we are about to have our 4th caution-free race of the season if we can get back to the white flag this time, because no cautions will come out in the final lap in this game. And there it is, off turn 4. White flag is waving. 1 lap to go for Greg Biffle in a dominant performance as he is about to lead all 200 laps from the pole at Dover. After 2 finishes outside the top 15 and 2 finishes of a lap down as well. Not only will he finish on the lead lap, but about as dominant as you can be. Winning this race, leading wire to wire, Greg Biffle is a winner in the Busch Series at Dover. The Stacker 200 will go to Greg Biffle. A short track win on the season, another one at least. And Greg Biffle will add on to the points lead with a max points day in the Busch Series. I've led all the laps in a Cup Series race once on the channel before. I don't know how many times I've done it for an Xfinity or a Busch race. I don't think it's the first time, but it's still rarity that happens even in a video game when you do full races. I could say I don't know if I've done that on NASCAR 05 or not. I'd imagine on Heat 4 or Heat 5 in the Xfinity or Truck Series I probably led all the laps a couple times, but I don't know if I've done it in the Busch Series. I know I definitely haven't done it this season. But 200 laps led, that will give Biffle over 1,000 laps led through 14 races of this Busch Series season. Only 3 drivers finished on the lead lap today, an 18.2 second margin of victory for Greg Biffle. Again, no cautions in this race, so the 4th caution-free race of the year. Average speed of 155.56 miles an hour. 1 hour, 17 minutes is all it took to complete 200 miles at Dover. There he goes. Bet you led every lap today. I did, yeah. We stayed out longer than everybody else on pit road the first go-around. Then obviously some drivers had to pit there at the end as well. So that's part of why we saw so many drivers finish the lap down. I think there were some lead lap cars that pit in those last few laps. But Greg Biffle definitely dominated this race. Kyle Busch finishes in 2nd. Dale Earnhardt Jr. 3rd. Busch came in 3rd in points. Blue Castleberry 4th, and Manny Brown rounds out the top 5. Ron Hornaday with a good run finishing 6th. It's going to be close on whether Kyle Busch is going to be 2nd in points now or if it's still going to be Hornaday. We'll have to check that here soon. Dwayne Borland finishes 7th. Bobby Hamilton Jr. got up to 2nd place early on, but he fell back to 8th. Ashton Lewis finishes 9th, and Kenny Wallace rounds out the top 10 today. And we'll take a look at who all DNF. We have 3 drivers blow an engine. And remember, Jeff Burton was one of them. Mike Bliss was one as well. So Jeff Burton, Mike Bliss, and then Billy Parker at lap 102 in the middle of green flag pit stops blew an engine also. So those were the 3 drivers. And that is going to wrap up that portion. Now we'll just take a look at the points lead. But props to Greg Biffle winning tonight. It's his 9th win of the Busch Series season. And he has now led just over 1,000 laps on the year. 1,019 laps to be exact. I said he had to lead almost all of them to be able to eclipse 1,000 laps led this season. He would have had to lead 181 laps. Well, he led more than that, so there we go. Next race is at Darlington, so I did remember correctly. It is the Bilo 200 daytime at Darlington for the next race. 200 miles there as well, 147 laps. That'll be on the channel next week. As far as tomorrow night goes, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm off of work. We'll be right on time tomorrow. And not only that, but it is an earlier start time because it is the Coca-Cola 600 longest race of the season tomorrow night on the channel on NASCAR 21 Ignition. 143-point lead for Greg Biffle over Ron Hornaday, so Hornaday is still 2nd in points over Kyle Busch. He's only 16 points ahead of Busch. Busch 159 back, and then a bigger gap back to Bobby Hamilton in 4th. He's 277 back. An even bigger gap to 5th in points, Ashton Lewis. So definitely a little bit more of a points lead for Biffle in the Busch Series side of things. He does have 3 finishes outside the top 10 in 14 races, but compared to our Cup Series season where we have 2 DNFs and then 5 finishes total outside the top 10, and a couple more races as well than what we've ran here. And that's why we're 2nd in points to Dale Jr., who has 3 more top 5s than us. I think he's only finished outside the top 5 3 times total on the season, which is just insane of itself. But thank you everybody for watching. Like and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. Again, I'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. on NASCAR 21 Edition for the Coca-Cola 600. We'll see if we can win our first crown jewel race of the season. Get Ryan Blaney. Or sorry, no, we won the Daytona 500. What am I thinking? We won the Daytona 500 on NASCAR 21 Ignition with Blaney. So never mind about the crown jewel statement, but we'll see if we can get another one won for him. And try to close in on Joey Logano, his teammate, for the regular season championship. Thank you so much for your support as always. Road to 2,000 subs. Road to becoming a NASCAR commentator down the line as well. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good rest of your Wednesday night.